The hidden champion, the neon lights of Murphy's pub, cast a warm glow across the polished wooden floors as Sarah wiped down the last table of her shift. It was nearly midnight, and the familiar hum of conversation and clinking glasses had died down to a gentle murmur. She tucked a loose strand of blonde hair behind her ear and surveyed the room with tired but determined eyes. Sarah had been working double shifts at Murphy's for 3 months now, ever since her mother's medical bills had started piling up. The tips weren't great, and her feet ached constantly, but she needed every penny. What her coworkers didn't know was that Sarah had another life before this one, filled with competitions, trophies, and crowds cheering her name. She had been a champion arm wrestler in college, winning state tournaments 3 years running. But that felt like a lifetime ago now. These days, her strength went toward carrying heavy trays and lifting cases of beer, not toward glory and recognition. The pub was hosting its monthly arm wrestling tournament tonight, and Sarah watched from the sidelines as regulars gathered around the small raised platform in the corner. The prize money was decent $500 for first place, but Sarah had never participated. She couldn't risk getting injured and missing work. "Come on, Sarah," called out Marcus, one of the regular customers. "We've all seen you haul those beer kegs around. You should enter." Sarah smiled politely and shook her head. "Just here to work, Marcus, but thanks." The tournament was in full swing when she noticed him, a man in an expensive-looking, button-down shirt, sitting alone at the bar. He seemed out of place among the usual crowd of construction workers and college students. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he wore the kind of watch that cost more than Sarah made in 6 months. His name was David. She learned when she brought him his order. He was quiet, polite, and tipped well. Throughout the evening, she caught him watching the arm wrestling matches with genuine interest, though he seemed more focused on studying the technique than enjoying the spectacle. As the tournament progressed, the atmosphere grew more intense. The final match was between 2 local heavyweights, Stoney, a burly truck driver who had won twice before, and Jake, a younger guy who worked at the nearby construction site. The crowd was getting rowdy, placing bets and shouting encouragement. Then it happened. During the final match, Jake put everything he had into one powerful move. There was a sickening crack, and Tony cried out in pain, clutching his wrist. The crowd fell silent as it became clear that Tony's arm was seriously injured. "We need to get him to a hospital," someone shouted. "Tournament's over," announced the referee, a gruff man named Pete who owned a local garage. "No winner tonight." That's when David stood up. Sarah watched in surprise as he walked toward the platform. "Excuse me," David said, his voice calm but carrying authority. "I'd like to propose something. The prize money should still go to someone tonight. These people came here for a competition." Pete looked skeptical. "You volunteering, city boy?" David smiled. "Actually, I was thinking we should ask someone who's been working harder than anyone else in this room all night." His eyes found Sarah's. Across the crowd, the waitress who's been carrying 30-pound trays without breaking a sweat. The room erupted in murmurs and laughter. Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anxiety. "I couldn't," she said quickly. "I'm working." "Your shift ended 10 minutes ago?" called out Jenny, the other waitress. "And we've all wondered if you could take these guys." The crowd began chanting her name. "Sarah! Sarah!" She looked around the room at all the expectant faces. $500 would cover her mother's medication for 2 months. But if she got hurt, David approached her quietly. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do," he said gently. "But I can see something in your eyes. You know you can do this." Sarah studied his face. There was something about his confidence that was infectious. "What makes you so sure?" "The way you move. The way you carry yourself. You have the stance of someone who's done this before." She was surprised by his observation. Most people never notice such details. Taking a deep breath, Sarah nodded. "One match against Jake." The crowd cheered as she made her way to the platform. Jake grinned confidently as they sat across from each other at the small table. He was younger and clearly strong from his construction work. But Sarah had something he didn't: years of technical training and muscle memory that never really disappeared. They locked hands. Pete positioned himself as referee. 3, 2, 1. Go! Jake immediately tried to overpower her with brute force, the same mistake she'd seen dozens of young competitors make. Sarah absorbed his initial push, letting him exhaust his explosive energy while she maintained perfect form elbow position. Correctly, wrist locked, shoulders engaged, the crowd was shouting, but Sarah heard none of it. She was back in her element, reading her opponent's weaknesses, feeling the precise moment when his grip began to falter. Then she made her move. With smooth, controlled power, Sarah began to turn Jake's hand. His eyes widened in surprise as he realized he was losing ground. She didn't rush, just applied steady, inexorable pressure until his knuckles touched the table. Winner! Pete announced, and the pub exploded in cheers. Sarah stood up, breathing hard but smiling for the first time all week. The crowd surrounded her, patting her back and shouting congratulations. Through the celebration, she saw David watching from the bar, a knowing smile on his face. Later, as the crowd thinned out, David approached her again. Impressive technique, he said. Where did you learn to compete like that? College, Sarah replied, counting the $500 with hands that were still shaking slightly from adrenaline. Long time ago, David nodded thoughtfully. Then, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. I'd like to offer you a job. Sarah glanced at the card and nearly dropped it. David Chun, Chief Executive Officer, Murphy's Restaurant Group. You own this place? This place and 47 others across the state, David said quietly. I make it a point to visit our locations regularly, usually without announcing. Myself, I like to see how things really work. Sarah stared at him, speechless. We're opening a new flagship location downtown, David continued. I need an assistant manager who understands hard work, can handle pressure, and has the kind of natural leadership I saw tonight. The job pays $60,000 a year, plus health insurance. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. I don't understand. Why me? Because you didn't just win that match through strength. You won through patience, strategy, and grace under pressure. Those are exactly the qualities I need in management. David paused. Also, anyone who works double shifts to take care of family while maintaining the positive attitude you've shown tonight is someone I want on my team. Sarah looked around the pub at the sticky floors she'd mopped countless times, at the worn bar stools she'd wiped down every night for months. As she thought about her mother, about the medical bills, about having health insurance for the first time in years. When do I start? She asked. David's smile was genuine and warm. Monday morning. But first, enjoy your weekend. You've earned it. As Sarah walked home that night, the business card tucked safely in her pocket, she thought about how strange life could be. Sometimes your past catches up with you in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes a moment of courage changes everything. She had gone to work that night as a struggling waitress worried about paying bills. She was going home as an assistant manager with a future full of possibilities. The strength in her hands had won her the match, but it was the strength in her character that had won her a new life. And somewhere in the distance, the neon lights of Murphy's Pub continued to glow, ready to welcome new stories and new dreams tomorrow night.